Hello, and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Kirsten's Surprise. Chapter 4, Braving the Blizzard. As they left Maryville in the loaded sleigh, the snow seemed to fall harder every minute. It stung Kirsten's cheeks until she pulled her shawl up over her nose. Papa urged Blackie faster, but now the horse had the extra weight of the trunks to pull, and the sleigh didn't skim along as it had before. "Look at that sky," Papa said. "The weather changed while we waited in the store." When the road turned west to the farm, Kirsten saw that the sleigh tracks they'd made earlier were filling with snow. The strong wind drove the snow directly into their faces. There was no way to hide from it. "Pull the blanket over your head," Papa told Kirsten. She curled up next to Papa's side and buried her face under his arm. She could hear the thump of Papa's heart and the muffled jingle of the sleigh bells as Blackie trotted along. The next time Kirsten peeked over the edge of the blanket, all she could see was white. Snow swirled from the fields like spray brooms from the top of waves. The drift shifted and moved as Blackie stepped along. Papa's beard was full of his snow. His mustache was white with it. His eyes were blue slits under his snow-caked eyebrows. "Where's the road, Papa?" Kirsten asked. "I can't see it. We're following the fence post. Blackie can find his way, though. He's a smart horse," Papa said. "Do you think we should go back to Maryville?" We've already come a long way. I think there's a better chance the horse knows the way to the farm. If we keep heading west, we'll be all right." But Papa frowned into the fiercely blowing snow. Kirsten was worried, too. She heard stories about settlers who lost their way in blizzards and walked in circles until they fell down. She heard about a boy who froze to death when he got lost between his barn and his house. A snowstorm on the plains was as dangerous as a storm on the ocean. Blackie's harness sounded faint and lost. His ears were down, his head low. Papa urged him to keep going, but the horse often stumbled in the moving drifts. Kirsten's feet were so cold she could barely move her toes. Under her feet, she felt the stones Mama had heated in the morning. The warmth had long since gone out of them. "Toss the stones out of the sleigh," Papa told her. "We should make this a little lighter. The trunks are heavier than I remembered." "But we won't leave our trunks in the snow, will we?" Kirsten asked. Papa patted his knee. "No, we won't leave our trunks. The snow will let up soon, you'll see." He slapped the reins against Blackie's back, which was thickly covered with snow. There were no more fence posts to follow. They drove along a dim shadow that Kirsten knew was the edge of the forest, but Blackie walked more and more slowly. Often Papa had to flick the whip across his back to keep him moving. "He wants to turn his back to the wind," Papa said, "but we'll have to go straight in the wind if we're going to go back to the farm." "Keep going, Blackie," Kirsten shouted. Her words seemed to disappear in the snow and wind. All at once, Blackie stopped. He wouldn't move. "Yo!" Papa yelled. Get up there." It was no use. The horse wouldn't take a single step. "What's wrong with him?" Kirsten asked. "He's losing his footing in the snow, and that frightens him," Papa said. "I'll have to leave him to keep moving." Papa handed Kirsten the reins and wrapped the blanket tightly around her waist, then climbed down from the sleigh. He stepped through the snowdrifts to Blackie's head and took hold of his bridle. "Come on, Blackie, come along now." Papa made his voice both gruff and soothing. The horse took one step, stopped, and then took another step. The bells jingled again. Kirsten realized she'd been holding her breath. She let out a sigh. Blackie trusted Papa. Now they're going to keep going toward home. That went slowly, step by difficult step. Papa climbed through knee-high drifts. Even though he could only see a few feet in front of her, Kirsten could hardly see him. He was completely covered with snow. Papa pulled Blackie's bridle and Kirsten slapped Blackie's flanks with a rein. The snow and cold made Kirsten lightheaded. Sometimes it seemed the sleigh wasn't moving at all. Only the snow seemed to move, like water running in a stream. Then Papa stumbled. He went down on his knees and cried out. Kirsten had never heard Papa cry out in pain before, and the sound was colder than the wind. "Papa!" she shouted. "Papa, are you all right?" She jumped out of the sleigh. The snow came to her hips, but Kirsten pushed it to Papa's side. Papa tried to stand, but again he went down the snow. What's the matter, Papa? My knee. I twisted my knee. I can't put my weight on it. He said. His face was very pale, his lips white. There was ice on his mustache. What can I do? Kirsten begged him. Nothing, Kirsten. It's up to Blackie now, Papa answered. We can't stop here. We have to reach the shelter. He dragged himself back to the sleigh, breathing hard. Kirsten wondered how he would ever get back to the high front seat. At last, Papa managed to crawl up, and then he reached down to Kirsten, helped Kirsten up beside him. But when he snapped the whip over Blackie's back, the horse wouldn't budge. It's no good, Papa said. With no one to lead him, he'll stay right there. Kirsten grabbed Papa's hand. But I can leave Blackie, she said. You stay in the sleigh, and I'll walk beside him. Do you think you can walk through this deep snow? I'll try, Papa. Papa brushed the snow off Kirsten's shoulders and tied the shawl more tightly over her nose and mouth. Then he pulled off the sheepskin mittens and put them on her hand. Inside Papa's mittens, the fleece was warm and dry. Kirsten's cold hands felt like rabbits creeping inside a snug home. You're a good girl, Kirsten, Papa said. You have heart. Papa had told Mama that she had heart when she agreed to come to America. He told Mama she had heart when she was sick on the ship but didn't lose hope. Kirsten wanted to be as brave as Mama. She pulled herself along Blackie's side. She shook the harness and made the bell sound. Yo! She cried in the biggest voice she could manage. Yo, Blackie! Come along! To her surprise, the horse's head came up and followed her. But this was getting hard. Kirsten's feet slipped. The drifts were up to her knees, and now her feet were so numb she couldn't even wiggle her toes. Like the horse, she bent over her head in the wind and concentrated on just one step, then the next, then the next. Snow caked her lips. Keep going, she told herself. Have heart, Kirsten. But she didn't know where she was going. The whole world was a white blowing snowdrift, and it would be dark. How would they ever find the way home? Kirsten tried to imagine the home, the little snug cabin somewhere in the storm. It would be warm there. She imagined Mama making soup for supper. She imagined Elizabeth and Anna waiting to make the St. Lucia's Day surprise. Keep going, Kirsten told herself. She tried to sing a Christmas carol to keep her spirits up, but her lips were so cold she could barely move them. Instead, she began to count the way Miss Winston drilled numbers in the school. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was 4 steps closer to home. 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 steps closer to home. Kirsten was glad she learned her numbers. Maybe the numbers would keep her moving. 9, 10, 11. She bumped into something. She fell against Blackie's side and looked around. They weren't in fields near the forest anymore. They were near some rocks. We've come the wrong way, Papa called. The horse has taken us into a valley by the stream. He's lost. Kirsten shielded her eyes from the snow to look. She knew where they were. Blackie hadn't come the wrong way at all. There were cliffs she'd gone to with Singing Bird, her Indian friend. There was a forked birch tree bent over by the wind. She knew that tree. She passed it on her way to the cave where she and Singing Bird had sometimes played. Kirsten struggled back to Papa. She reached up and grabbed his hand. I know where we are, Papa. How can you know where we are, Kirsten? Horse has lost his way. I've been here, Kirsten cried. You've been here? Where are we? Papa asked. We're beside a cliff. There's a tiny cave nearby. Kirsten pointed. Papa looked up at the cliff. How far to the cave? It's only a little way, and there's dry wood inside. We've stayed in here until the storm is over, Kirsten said. Papa tried to stand, but his leg gave out and he sat down again. Can you take care of Blackie? He asked. Yes, I'm sure I can. Then unharness him from the sleigh and lead him to the clump of birch trees. He'll rest there and be glad of it. Groaning, Papa crawled down from his sleigh. He sat down on the snow and pushed himself backward, inching up the slope toward the opening of the cave. As Papa reclined, Kirsten took Blackie's harness. It was hard to do with Papa's big mittens, so she pulled one off and held it with teeth while she worked at the buckle. Blackie followed her a few yards to the shelter of the clump of trees. As she tied his reins to the birch tree, he whinnied. Kirsten brushed the snow from his forelock in his face. Good old Blackie, you have heart. You know that? You're a very brave horse. And she followed Papa out of the path to the cave. Inside, the cave was dry and not very deep. Near the black was a pile of dry sticks and grass, and the black traces of campfires the Indians had made. Singing birds said sometimes they stayed here when they were hunting. Papa twisted a handful of dry grass and then laid the dry sticks over it. He chipped out a piece of stone with his flint until he got sparks. A tiny flame began in dry grass. Papa blew gently, and the sticks caught fire. Kirsten brought a large branch and laid it by the little fire. First, we must warm your feet, Christian. Take off your boots. He leaned the dry wall against the cave. Kirsten spread the blanket next to Papa, sat down, and loosened her bootlaces. When she got her boots off, Papa began to rub her feet gently with his warm hands. Soon her toes started to tingle. She knew it was a good sign that they hurt. They weren't frozen. Papa took off his own boots now and put a thick log on the fire. When did you come to this cave? He asked her. Because Kirsten didn't want to tell him about Singing Bird and the Indians, she said, I was exploring along the stream and I found it. Did you have permission to be so far from the farm? Papa asked sternly. Kirsten shook her said, No, Papa. I wandered farther than I thought. The ice was melting from Papa's beard, and she saw that he smiled at her. I'm glad you're a little explorer, Kirsten. I'm glad you found this cave. Do you think you can find your way back to the farm from here? I think so, Papa. Then lie back and rest, Papa said. There's nothing we can do until it stops snowing, and you must be very, very tired. Now they were resting. Kirsten realized she was hungry. She was too exhausted to climb down the path and get what was left of their lunch from the sleigh. But in her pocket, she found a piece of sugar candy Mr. Burkhoff had given her at the general store. The candy was shaped like a Christmas bell. She put it in her mouth and lay down beside Papa. The last thing she knew before she fell into a deep sleep was the taste of cinnamon and sugar on her tongue. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.